Yes, yes. Ha. Yes, yes, yes. Ha. Ha ha. Jackson, welcome in.
Hey. Morning, Tim.
It's Balloon Party. Driven by Muggin, St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota. My name is Timothy Michael McKernan. Considered to be the best ever.
That seems to be the consensus, actually.
That's right.
Like, there's some people might have you two, but the general public has you one.
Who would be first? Yeah.
Right. I mean, I said that, but really, we all know the answer.
Thank you very much. What's the deal with the balloons here in the studio? Can you see this on YouTube? Probably not, because there's nobody standing over there. Is this in honor of our show?
You know, one would think because our show is titled Balloon Party.
Camera, or should you not do that? YouTube.com, 101 ESPN channel. Interact, because the TMA listeners come over into the YouTube chat and they interact with the 101 listeners, and it's like the Bloods and Crips getting together and having their truce. That's how I compare it anyway.
Here, I think I can show the YouTube
Oh,
folks.
boy. Jackson's being a bad boy moving these YouTube cameras.
There it is. Look at it.
If you're watching on YouTube, you get to see it. Look at all these balloons.
Yeah.
So what's this about? Do you do this for me?
No, I didn't do it for you. I believe because if you see on the far side, you see a balloon of a gentleman. That is Randy Carricker because it is his birthday this week.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
I believe that's the case. I mean, I walked in here. Yeah, Mike Ryder's giving me a thumbs up. That is the case. His birthday is on Saturday.
DB says in the YouTube chat, thank God Action Jackson is back. He's the only reason I listen to this 1 hour show. That's from DB.
Shout out, is that Devin?
You, DB. I'm coming after you. Do you remember the show DB's Delight on KMOV early in the morning on Saturdays in 1982?
Right. Yeah, no. Actually, me and my father had a great conversation this weekend about
DB's Delight?
DB. No, I've never heard of the show. When I think DB, I think Devin Booker, obviously.
Yeah. We will talk NBA, of course. Jackson has this week, or today, on the Angry Beaver, Lil Piddles Weekend Wrap-Up.
Bingo.
Thank you. No Cardinal questions.
0.
And I really celebrate that.
Thank you.
I really do. Now, if there was a topic, I guess we can, do the Wainwright thing.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what to add to the Wainwright thing.
Right, like what? Yeah, and that's for Cardinal talk in general. Like we've done so much of it, and it's come to a point where until the off season, nothing new is going to happen. The performances of Hudson, Liberatore, Matz to an extent is interesting or something to keep up with because they could be penciled into the 2024 starting rotation. But outside of that, I guess the development of Jordan Walker and some other young guys,
or lack thereof. But either way, I'll tell you this. Here, I'll weave a Cardinal topic, and even though it's not in the Angry Beaver Lil Piddles Weekend Wrap-Up,
right?
I really enjoyed Ben Frederickson's column, I believe yesterday. I feel like I read it on Saturday. But either way, over the weekend, focusing on the chairman, Bill DeWitt. Now, he wasn't lighting him up, but just saying, hey, that's where the change starts. I think Mazzella catches the most hell. I don't think. I'm confident in St. Louis. John Mazzella catches the most hell. But there's chains of command in businesses, and the owner can dictate the change of command. So John Mazzella catches the hell, but John Mazzella isn't the one with the final say, and Bill DeWitt is an active owner. I feel like for the most part these days in sports, the owner is way more active than they were even a quarter a century ago.
Even in the last 5 years, you've seen such an uptick in ownership engagement.
Because it's no longer like the family business and these things weren't worth what they're worth now, that it's somebody who had some ridiculous run of success, with exceptions, the NFL probably being the one that still has the most family ownership, I think.
Maybe baseball.
You think so? I don't know. I just feel like the Spanos family, they're obviously wealthy, but they're not at the other world. Like if they sold the Chargers, I don't know if they'd be like, okay, let's go buy up another team.
Sure.
Point being that you have people who were usually entrepreneurs and had billions of dollars, and they're not going to be passive in their investments. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you have active owners. But Bill DeWitt, the Cardinal chairman, has been an active owner. I recall seeing Dan Lozano, who was Albert Pujols' agent, The night that Albert signed his contract with the Cardinals, and I guess this was an extension of sorts, in 2004, I believe. And this was in Jupiter. And he was saying how active Bill DeWitt was, not Walt Jocketty. Walt Jocketty was the GM at the time, how active Bill DeWitt was in this deal. And how that was, when things were looking like they might not get done, it's because Bill DeWitt was so active. And so my point being, I like that Ben Frederickson, as the columnist for the Post-Dispatch, which still, even though, it's 2023, Post-Dispatch in St. Louis still carries weight, directed the readership to where I think, that's not like I'm angry, I think he's going to go down as one of the greatest owners ever in St. Louis sports, which may sound like blasphemy in 2023, but I don't give a damn. I mean, look at the track record and look what he's done. But either way, he's still the guy at the top. John Mozeliak doesn't walk into his office and tell him what to do.
Right.
So if he's going, hey, we have to go out and get 2 free agent starters. I don't care what you think, John. I own the team. That's what we're going to do. That's where the focal point is. And on whether it be, okay, you're good with the front office, as Ben said, okay, well then that's on Bill DeWitt. John Mozeliak doesn't get to keep people. So I liked that column. So there's my Cardinal observations. As far as, messing around with another last place team. Are the Royals a last place team? I just assume they are.
So.
But in the American League Central, aren't we all last place teams?
I think the combined wins of like the A's and Royals is like 65 or 70.
Nice.
It's
the Cardinals get the Royals, the A's, and the Mets. So if you're holding out hope and want to fire a bet for a long shot, this is the week to do it.
Might be under season.
Cardinals and A's this week, and then Cardinals and Mets for 4. And that's it. I'm glad that the Lil Piddles Angry Beaver Weekend Wrap-Up, you weren't going to...
Yeah, it's such an odd time in St. Louis sports. Like this...
Been doing it, and you say 25 years Hall of Fame career. Your words. We have not had a year, because the other years you would include the Rams in there, where you have both of the 4 major North American leagues. I mean, don't get me wrong. What's going on with City, it's absolutely trending. And MLS, take City out of the equation, is absolutely trending. But still, comparatively speaking, Cardinals, Rams, Blues or just Cardinals and Blues era, nothing like this, where you had both teams in full-on sell mode, and you weren't even paying attention to the games at the end of the regular season.
Right, yeah, it's so strange in that sense. And, we have college football around the corner, but that isn't what the Rams would be like if they were still in town. And the NFL is, of course, around the corner, but people have a bad taste in their mouth in terms of that. So it's like it's a weird time right now for all the 0.01% of sports producers out there, like creating a show. Like, whether you like it, it is kind of a weird time. It's a doldrum that
that's why you're going to shine bright like a diamond, because you have this Lil Piddles Angry Beaver Weekend Wrap-Up that is, going to captivate not only me, but the millions and millions listening to this 1-hour midday radio program here on 101 ESPN and watching in the YouTube chat. 130 friends right now have gathered in the YouTube chat. See that little cap tip? Kind of remind you of Hove a little bit?
For so many reasons. The black cap actually helps in that regard. What also I'll say is the sports business, or this Weekend Wrap-Up, is more so a sports business news. It is the Weekend Wrap-Up, but almost every question outside of 1, maybe 2, are completely sports business related.
I like to hear that.
Because there is actually a lot of stuff going on in sports business at the moment.
I like to hear that. I'll tell you, here's something. And I said it a little bit. You asked a question, or no, I think somebody asked a question for a deep dive a week or 2 ago about an opportunity for Missouri to seize the moment. Today should be a great day for Missouri recruiting. James Carlton, who's been a sponsor of Balloon Party and a longtime sponsor of my podcast and TMA, in his opinion, says Nwaneri will be the biggest signing in Missouri football history. I mean, how about that? And I said, okay, DGB, Sheldon Richardson. He said, yeah, because it's Missouri that's taken a player from Oklahoma, and he's announcing today at 3 o'clock. Yep. I would imagine maybe like 8% of the listening audience of 101 ESPN is maybe familiar with that. But that speaks to, as a Missouri fan, the issue, and that is that this is potentially, if he picks Missouri, it's Missouri or Oklahoma, that many people aren't aware. If we were doing the show in any other SEC state, you know what I mean?
For the most part, yeah.
So if Missouri can seize the moment where the market is, if you are a sports fan, going, give me something.
Right.
You know, the Dogs haven't played, I mean, outside of the Leagues Cup for a month. Mm-hmm. Seize the moment.
Absolutely.
Grab the headlines. Have Eli Drinkwitz everywhere. Have players available as often as you can and market. It's great that they're going to be playing Memphis. I can't wait for that here in St. Louis, but you know, there's a football void on the east side of the state.
Absolutely.
Capitalize on it. And I'm telling you, what percentage would you give that on October 7th, that little Southern belle now, even though he's from Massachusetts, Brian Kelly, and the LSU Tigers and the Missouri Tigers are undefeated? What percentage would you give it? That both of them.
I mean, LSU's got a quick little gauntlet to go.
Well, they got to
through.
go to Orlando and take on Florida State. They got to go to Starkville and take on Mississippi State. They host Ole Miss and they host Arkansas. Am I correct on that?
They go to Oxford.
They go to Oxford.
They host Arkansas.
Got it.
So, I mean,
there was some Mississippi State, Hail State involved in there. Either way, point is they don't have a light schedule. Missouri has K-State.
Yeah, they play in Starkville and in Oxford. They have to take two separate trips to Mississippi.
Mother of mercy.
So, yeah, so they'll have to win 2.5 road games. I consider that Florida State game half a road game because Orlando's proximity to Tallahassee. But, yeah, if they both are 5-0, I'd say 4%.
Really?
I just think it's going to be tough for LSU to not get.
You think it's more likely Missouri's undefeated?
Well, when you look at the schedule, yeah, I do. But that's not. It's not so much a testament to Missouri. It's an indictment.
How tough LSU's schedule is.
Right. It's just brutal. That's a brutal schedule.
Seize the moment because you know the Cardinals aren't going to be playing unless they don't lose the rest of the way.
Right. And I think that's a possibility.
This week, it is a possibility with the A's and Mets coming to town. All right, Lil Piddles Weekend Wrap-Up coming up. It's brought to you by Angry Beaver. This is Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Yeah. I mean, this is it. This is the one. This is the one we wanted. This is the one you get. It's the Lil Piddles Angry Beaver Weekend Wrap-Up. What do we got? I can't wait.
My first two questions, I think, are really going to spawn something here.
Wow.
The second one,
I haven't looked. I didn't peek. I was so locked in on TMA today.
Say, you got it at 9:47
in the Maryland Heights apartment community.
Right. So I'm going to start off with this one. The Cardinals aren't in it, Tim. The Blues aren't playing, and football doesn't start for a few weeks. I'm going to ask about gambling. ESPN is the new darling of Penn Gaming, launching ESPN Bet. What do you make of the longtime staple of sports media joining the gambling circle? Do you think that there could be some ethical conflicts with a journalism entity and gambling? Will this further usher gambling and sports broadcasting being in tandem, more so on the surface, less so behind the scenes?
I don't have any concerns about it. It's been veiled commentary mainly from Brent Musburger and Al Michaels before it was accepted in the mainstream. And this would go back to hell, maybe even the 80s, but certainly the 90s. And I enjoy looking at odds, not just because I'm going to consider placing a wager on it. I like the math of the probability of where a team or an individual is perceived. From a baseball gambling standpoint, the weather's impact is, again,
for football especially.
Well, I'm talking about baseball, humidity and obviously wind direction. That's kind of an obvious one in certain places like Wrigley and whatever the hell the thing is. Is it Oracle now or the Giants play? It was
Oracle Park. It was AT&T Park. It's not Oracle Park.
So I enjoy that. I think it adds to the conversation to make the sports conversation operate at a higher level as opposed to I like this guy, I don't like this guy, I like this team, I don't like this team. It makes the sports fan become more educated. So I like that. Now, when you say ethical, where are you seeing an ethical issue?
Well, the ESPN has a lot of insiders. And they have people who have sources inside teams, and then just anytime you have something like that where you have inside sources, and that is their job, they're not doing anything wrong by being an inside source, but then you're also connected to an entity which has a big sports gambling platform. There's going to be...
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay, now I see what you're saying. I get it. Okay, yeah.
Like with the Shams thing.
Sure. Well, I mean, you got to explain what that was, because I think probably 98% of the audience doesn't know what it is, but it's relative to the conversation. It is about the NBA, but this is more about sports gambling and ethics.
Yeah, Shams Charania is the insider for The Athletic, the NBA insider for The Athletic, kind of the counterpart to Woj, who's ESPN's version of the insider. And he also does work on FanDuel TV, and he had information about Scoot Henderson, who was picked third, not second, and originally was thought to be picked second. You can place wagers on when guys get picked. Shams has information about that, sends it out. Lines move like crazy.
He moves the market.
Right.
I see. So that's what Jackson's referring to there. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I have to tell you, now that I think through it, if ESPN has its bottom line impacted by being in bed with a gambling company, then therefore it's beneficial if people lose money. If their viewers lose money,
right?
They can, yeah. I have to think through that one.
Right.
Sure, that presents quite a situation. If you have that sham situation, which again, I recognize this isn't a way to try to weave the NBA in. It's material to the conversation that I can see that you can move markets with information. Sure. I mean, I don't know how many people for gambling advice, in particular for like fantasy sports, but also for gambling, listen to podcasts with what I would call touts. And touts isn't necessarily something that I would use in a complimentary term. I would say, this is 100% speculative and arbitrary, so I want to make that clear, that the tout is usually in the red when the tout is tracking his wagers at the end of the year. Like real, not like, I broke even. No. Really in the red. Because the people who are actually making money are not sharing that with the public, because then if the public goes and bets on the team that this person really likes, then it can move the spread, and a half point can mean the world when you're actually that sharp.
Yeah.
So my premise being, the tout is not necessarily who you want to listen to. But I have plenty of friends, including myself, who will listen to these things. But then what I now have gotten to is like, okay, now I see what they're moving the market over there. So now I can't possibly play that person. Game theory dictates I got to zag if everybody else is zigging. So yeah, if ESPN, but that's because I'm going, okay, this is a guy with a podcast and he's acting like he knows that the Commanders are going to win 9 games. That's different than somebody working for ESPN who has dollars coming in now from gambling, saying, a report that they understand this person's going to play or this person's not going to play, which then moves the market. So I see what you're saying.
Right. And so
it's a very fair question.
Yeah, and there's some quandaries involved with that. Follow-up question to that.
2-part.
Do you think other big-name sports media platforms, Fox Sports 1, you name it, NBC Sports, CBS Sports, will also consider getting into the gambling side of things because of ESPN doing it? Do you think it's going to become a mainstay where lines of the game are going to be on the bottom scroll as opposed to other game scores and stuff like that?
That to me is different. I feel like that's already happened.
To an extent, yeah, there's almost always like
that's different. That's different than what my understanding is with this Penn Gaming is that they are in business together.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's different than talking about gambling.
Sure.
If your company's profits are directly impacted by a casino having a good quarter, then that's different than talking about the fact that Missouri's a 34-point favorite against South Dakota.
Oh yeah.
You see, I know you know that, but I'm that. So yeah, would other companies get into it? I suppose if it's got profit opportunities and the board says, yeah, let's dig in. ESPN was the one that opened the floodgates, so now let's go. I mean, and ESPN isn't ESPN. ESPN is Disney.
No doubt. Yeah, and that's kind of what my next
Bob Iger factor. Part you saw the layoffs for cutting expenses, and now you see getting into bed with gambling for the top line. And I personally have no problem with. I mean, I always thought it was so disingenuous. It's like saying profanity on the radio. It's just dogma that if you think through, why? But whatever. I know the rules, so I play along, even though I think it's stupid. And I never could understand why they couldn't talk about if they talk about the fact that the Cardinals are favorites against the A's. Oh, what But it was just the way that things were. So you danced, but. It's real. We know that a healthy percentage of the population is at the very least aware of it, if not participating in it. People love to crap on baseball by looking at Game 3 of the World Series against this Monday night game between the Colts and Jaguars got buried in the ratings. Why? You think it's about watching the Colts and Jaguars? It's about the fantasy team and the gamblers who lost their asses on Saturday and Sunday trying to get out of the hole. That's what Monday Night Football is about.
Right.
So... but we couldn't talk about that. And that was always disingenuous to me.
There's always going to be connections, too, because, while I say what ESPN is doing what they're doing in business with Penn, that's a direct connection there. But these all CBS Sports, NBC Sports, Amazon, they're owned by massive conglomerates, Viacom, whatever it may be. And some way or another, there's probably a gambling connection there. Amazon bought MGM Studios. MGM has got gambling interest. Amazon plays Thursday Night Football. There's going to be connections no matter what. But this is unprecedented because it's a sports media company directly working with a gaming company. And I think that it could become industry standard. And I just wonder what the ethical... if things will change.
It's an absolutely fair question. I don't think if the Shams thing that you cited would have happened, it would have even been on my radar. But since that moved the markets, and understandably so,
right?
I mean, if Woj says that Steph Curry isn't playing in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals, I mean, obviously that's going to move the point spread,
right?
But then what you're doing, if you're saying is Woj intentionally giving bad information? Is he told to him? And that then you kind of get into some really malicious. Stuff that's not something that I think people would just be able to do and keep secret. So you got to play it out how it would look. But I understand it that there's concern. Do you have question 2 here?
I do. It's super long-winded, and I think goes down a very deep dive.
Wow.
Kind of.
You came loaded for bear for this Angry Beaver Lil Piddles Weekend Wrap-Up.
Well. It's Nwaneri Day, and I decided to...
It's Nwaneri Day.
Yeah.
3 o'clock, Power Mizzou, the Colonel.
In case
he's going to be a regular here on the program. That's Missouri, we've all released... We gave you the Orioles win total, and now they're going to go win the American League East. And you go, Tim, what is another lock? No problem. Missouri over 6.5 wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a super lock, and
we might even be willing to give you over 7.5 if you can get better odds on
Right.
it. That's the kind of tout I am.
and Nwaneri might be listening today because he wants to get a taste.
I can see it. The show is really popular in Kansas City.
Yeah, he wants to get a taste of what some of the pundits might be talking about during his tenure in Columbia.
Oh, what's the guy who's in his mid-40s got cut from his freshman high school team saying?
Right.
So that's why he's listening.
And I want
might be watching on YouTube.
Right. I want to make a good impression on the generational talent defensive end.
Let's see what we got. Were Tim and the Twink on suspension last week? It's Patrick. I'm a Patrick. Well, he doesn't like us, but I'm a Patrick Patch guy. What were we on suspension for?
No.
It was on vacation.
Right.
And I call vacation. I was just playing in a golf tournament.
Right.
That's the honest answer.
Yeah. So that was only Thursday and Friday. It wasn't a week.
The number of people who want my downfall, I'm flattered by it.
Right.
I'm flattered by it.
I'm going to quote for you.
What do you got? Wow, that was such great oratory skill there. I got a quote for you. What is it?
The Jets coach, is it Robert Saleh?
Wow, this is so good. This was so well done.
Right.
If you're gonna come correct with it. Now what just happened? Did you just zone out again? Did you do one of those things?
I got a text from T. Diddy.
What does the show stop if Tanner texts in?
Yes.
God, is he the chairman of the board at Hubbard?
Here's the quote. Robert Saleh kind of did a Michael Scott thing with the Wayne Gretzky quote, and he quoted a rap song, and the song says, "If you ain't got no haters, you ain't poppin'." And I think that is kind of
what you're saying to Patrick.
That's what I'm saying to your idea of the people who are wishing upon your downfall.
Well, that's fine, but they've been wishing it for a long time.
Right. So if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping.
Either I'll just pass on, or I'll go, that'll do her. I'll see you in Jupiter. Whatever the thing is, and you'll get you will win. Right. I will be going away. I can promise. It's just the way that it is. Mm-hmm. I may be brilliant, but I'm not immortal.
Wow.
Think about that.
Wow.
Is Robert Saleh going to quote that?
Yeah, well, I'll watch Hard Knocks next week, I guess.
That's exactly right. But it has been 25 years. You know? So you kind of got to go, it's like me with car racing. Not really my thing, but I know there's a market for it.
Right.
But I don't sit there and watch car racing and go, man, I sure hate car racing. I just go, car racing is on. I'm not really interested. I'm glad you enjoy it.
Yeah, I like to call them motor cars.
That's nice, as opposed to the horse and buggy.
Right, horseless carriages.
Horseless carriages? Oh, the vehicles that are racing.
Yeah, motor cars.
You can interact with the Friends of the Feather. Patrick is in there. He's talking it over with TMA listeners.
Tiny Pee-Pee in there?
Tiny Pee-Pee is in there.
Yeah, he's a mainstay.
Get on him. It's fun for the whole family in the YouTube chat. You can also text in Air Comfort Service text line 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line. And I mean, you have teased me so well at this point for question 2 of the Lil Piddles. Now, when you say it's lengthy, is your question lengthy, or you think I'm going to go down?
It's lengthy.
Why can't we use the shears, boy?
Because I have to explain a lot of this context, and I have
There's a lot of build up for this.
It's a theory.
There's a lot of build up.
It's a theory that I think you will respond to one way or the other.
God, I'm legitimately intrigued. Yeah. You've gotten better at teasing, my boy.
Well, yeah, I spent the weekend
at a teasing clinic.
Yeah, it was in Lower
Francis
Afton.
Park.
It was in Lower Afton. And
Francis Park in Lower Afton.
No, it's not. That was where
it's
we
like you, just
drinks.
I'm from Ladue, and anything that's not Ladue is Afton. That's what that was. 314-399-9646, or just interact in the NASCAR fan. Look at this. Here I am saying I'm not a big fan of auto racing, but the NASCAR fan said I can't wait for the big T's to bomb. See?
I see, now people are wishing upon my downfall.
Well, that's kind of part of the deal.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah. And what was that quote that you had from Robert Saleh that you...
Yeah, well, it's Robert Saleh, and I forgot the name of the rapper, which is now I look like the ass. But it's, if you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping.
Nice.
You watching Hard Knocks?
I am.
It's pretty good.
So I did see that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm a fan.
I love Hard Knocks. I love Quarterbacks on Netflix. I love Full Swing on Netflix. The Blues did a documentary on their draft. I love that these teams are doing this.
Yeah.
It's smart to do it.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll break. We'll come back with whatever this big tease is for the second question of the Angry Beaver Lil Piddles Weekend Wrap-Up here on 101 ESPN.
This is Action Jackson with a Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. The Cardinals win on Saturday, 5-4. They had an off day yesterday, and they will take on the Oakland Athletics tonight, 6:45, your first pitch. And yesterday in Western London, Chelsea and Liverpool drew 1-1 in the final score at Stamford Bridge. That was another Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Welcome back. It is Balloon Party, driven by Mungan S. St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN. Timothy Michael McKernan, Action Jackson with you. We're on YouTube, too. And you can interact in the chat there. You can text in the Air Comfort Service, 314-399-9646. Air Comfort Service text line. A lot of buildup for the question, too, here of the Lil Piddles Angry Beaver Weekend Wrap-Up. I can't wait to hear it. I worry for your sake that there's been so much buildup that inevitably there's going to be an unfair amount of criticism. But let's see. I don't know.
Listen, man, sometimes when you're doing your work,
right,
people are going to have some problems with it.
Nice. So poignant.
When you do it in such a public-facing sector.
Right, as 1 hour midday radio.
Yeah. You're going to face more criticism than maybe some other industries.
Oh, wow.
But that doesn't change the fact that I still like my question.
Okay. Wow. Jackson, powerful.
Right. So just hang with me while I ask this.
Because apparently this is a long-winded question is what I'm sensing. So if anyone wants to start the clock, start.
I mean, it's very long. Whilst watching Winning Time, the show about the Showtime Lakers in the 80s, there is a scene where Red Auerbach approaches Dr. Jerry Buss and informs him the Celtics have traded for Warriors big man Robert Parrish and drafted Kevin McHale to join a sick front court with Larry Bird. That front court is filthy. Dr. Buss, after the interaction, asks his crew in the Lakers organization in a panic if the Celtics just ate their lunch. I find that scene an interesting relic of history, as the owner of the franchise has to hear from the GM of the team in question to find out about trades and draft picks. Obviously, it's a dramatization, but I find it fascinating how sports have changed. Nowadays, players can find out about trades the same times as fans, and information is at the tip of your fingers. Looking at the journey of the sports landscape, do you think this change in the stream of information has both improved the sports world and crumbled some of its most important vestiges? With more people in the know, we have more and more people watching sports every day. That's a positive. By that same token, sports writers and anchors who aren't breaking news, insiders like Woj and Shams, aren't viewed in the same vein. Also, because basic information that at one time was cutting edge is now standard, we have hosts doing the hot take theater, as we talk about a lot, in order to stay relevant, because nuanced sports has been ushered out by the continuing stream of information. Do you think technology and the way we consume sports has kind of both improved how we enjoy sports and also destroyed some of its most important vestiges?
Wow. Okay. I like it. There's meat on this bone. That's fun. I think one thing that has changed substantially because of, I'll just start with like phones, because phones then leads into the social media conversation, is that sports now doesn't have near the characters that it had in take your pick of previous eras. Like, let's picture Babe Ruth. And, of course, none of us are familiar with his work as far as interactions. But the stories that go around Babe Ruth, imagine if he were playing with a Twitter account with everybody with phones while he's out having a libation or visiting a lady of the night. So what has happened is people don't go out. And if they do, they can be penalized for it.
Right.
And so it privatizes, and by that I'm not talking about public, like an IPO versus a private business. Sure. I'm talking about it. They privatize their lives. They are not going to say something in an interview for fear of either being suspended by the team or the league or losing endorsement dollars. And so it becomes robotic. It loses character. It loses flavor. I think that is bad for the game. I think that is bad for humanity, actually. On the other side of it, because I do think it's good and bad, I think the increase in information as far as math is intriguing, but I think the mistake people can make with it is to go all in on the math. Because, as we have heard from some people, and it isn't limited to baseball, but I feel like we hear about it more with baseball than anything else because of take your pick of Moneyball, sabermetrics, and then obviously the analytics that played a role in the shift, and then the shift going away with the changes in baseball's rules, is that you can have all the data you want, but if you don't know what's going on inside of a person's life day to day, which data does not track, or if that person had a bad start because of that, then now that factors into the data. It can cut both ways, both past analytics and then also projections, that it leads people to saying you can't rely solely on data. And I think that is the right answer. And so I think when you get into front offices that are solely data driven, I think they miss out. And I think that element has become less important. And by that element, I'm talking about humanity. And I'm not talking about society, humanity, and I'm talking about the overall element of the mind. The mind is so powerful on how people perform. And if somebody is in a bad place, let's say physically, you just have an injury, but then it's going to make you conscious of that when you're performing whatever sport it might be.
For sure.
You may not be yourself. And so that is a factor in how you perform, because mentally you're thinking, you're conscious of that. The old one that you hear most, what if he had a fight with his wife? What if he's going through a divorce? What if he just found out that, or he was, having some side action on the road and his wife found out about that and all hell's breaking loose at home? Whatever it might be, there is no statistic that tracks that. So I feel like that part is lost. So from my standpoint, I prefer when people were more comfortable being themselves. I think it adds more color and flavor. And I also think it's the way that people really interact when they're away from microphones or whatever, judgment crew exists behind burner accounts on social media.
Yeah. I think what my question was, and what I find interesting about it, is like what used to be like top of the hour, Sports Center's coming up, everyone's tuning in to hear this piece of information.
Everybody tunes in for your Sports Center update. I know that. That's
a whole different animal.
It is.
But like what used to be like top of the, like what you would go to ESPN to go see is at the touch of your fingers with one tweet from an insider or one tweet out there is now like, so because of that, in order for not just Sports Center, but like sports talk, anything like that, writers, to grab attention, you have to be more and more, outrageous is the wrong word, but more scandalizing in a way. And it kind of creates narratives that may not have been created had information, like if you could just discuss information without everyone knowing it immediately. Like I just feel like the way that we get information is great because people are more in tune to sports and they're more knowledgeable about sports. Like think back into the 80s. Did you ever see like an American League baseball team play up until October? Like,
no. Probably the first time when I went to a game against the Royals and A's, in the early 1990s over at Kauffman Stadium. That was the first time I probably saw an American League team play.
Yeah, like did you watch hockey teams that weren't played around here, baseball teams, football teams? Like no, but we have that ability now, which is awesome. But at the same token, because information is so readily available to us, in order for sports outlets to kind of remain relevancy, you kind of have to do like this hot take, and it goes into like what we talk about with the death of nuance. Is like, I just think because more people are more knowledgeable, everyone can be a sports insider, but not everyone can be, this outrageous take artist.
And it's funny because as you're talking, I look directly above you, and there's Dan Orlowski.
Yeah.
So you got all this from John C. Reilly interacting with the gentleman playing the role of Red Auerbach last night.
Well, yeah, no, this was the first episode, and it was discussed.
How's season 2 so far? 2 episodes in, good or bad?
Good.
Uh-oh, Peter. Something's going on, Peter.
There's so much. And also, like, when you're doing a story about this, like, I know that the Lakers don't win the 81 championship. So, like, when you kind of lay some of these, like these things already happened. They happened somewhat recently. So like that element of like, will the Lakers win? Like when they set it all up, it's like, well, I know they don't, but I know they win eventually after that. So I think there's like more interesting character studies out there that they should dive into, less so about like the, what Lakers offense they're running. But that's beside the point. Basically what I'm saying, like why I picked up on that, I was listening to a podcast and they talked about this exact thing, that this is interesting, that like sports information like that was transferred in a dinner at Peter Luger's and not at, everyone reading their phone and finding it out. And this is the owner of the Lakers. This isn't like just Joe sports fan. This is the guy who's across the table from Red Auerbach. So I just found that part interesting, and then made this convoluted discussion.
Oh, Prince, you don't have to apologize. No, it was a minute 20. That was the length of the question.
Yeah.
But I liked it.
Thank you.
Hey, come here.
Sit on my lap.
Spoiler alert, jackass. That's from the 636.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Is it like a spoiler? Like it's not hard to figure out who won the 1981 NBA championship. It was not the Los Angeles Lakers. So I don't know if they're just going to spend a whole season or 2 seasons or 3 seasons like going through each year. They're going to get up to Kobe and Shaq. Could there be, it's limitless. It's kind of weird.
What do you say about Lisa?
She's a gem.
I agree. I don't know what this meant. I think a word's missing. Sick parent, kids, best friends.
Those are.
They're all words.
Those are 5 words, but there's missing
it's like I'm playing $25,000 pyramid.
There's like a preposition.
He was going to
missing.
give me another hint to give me the right answer.
Yeah, preposition's missing or something.
Parent, kids, best friends. Dude.
When you were sick as a kid, what TV show was usually
Price
on?
Right.
Price is Right.
Dude. Right.
It was probably Price is Right for me too.
What were you watching? Too Close for Comfort with that Jim J. Bullock.
This is going to come off like maybe braggadocious. I really never got sick as a kid. Like I could probably count on one hand the amount of days of school I missed from being sick.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at Cal Ripken over here.
Yeah, really lucky.
Look at the
in that
Iron
sense.
Horse.
Very,
Piddles.
very well. Knock on wood.
I bet Jamie Rivers going to come in and give you a little pat on the backside.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That was a really good question, Piddles. You still suck. That's from the Grape Ape Auto Dealing.
It's probably the best compliment I can receive. Your question was good, but you still suck. Yeah. Well, I wasn't going to think I was going to turn the tide just on that one question.
After episode 2, they are done with the 81 season, Mr. Jackson.
That was legitimately a spoiler alert, and now I'm upset, which is fine. I was glad that
I thought they had already moved on like into the mid-1980s at the end of season 1.
No.
Really?
The end of the last episode is them, is the drama.
Larry Bird had come along, but I guess they hadn't started having the Celtics thing yet.
Yeah, because the Celtics didn't make the 80 championship.
We were sitting around, my wife and I were sitting around on Saturday night. This was a lot different than like a decade ago. And I'm like, I don't feel like usually we're watching The Bear.
Uh-huh. Good show.
Yeah. And I said, for some reason, I'm not feeling it. I said, I really like watching Winning Time, the story of the Lakers dynasty, and it just restarted. If you watch season 1, maybe you'll get into it and then we can watch it together. Mm-hmm. And then I had forgotten how episode 1 starts, and it's basically one of my stag films, which is, of course, for me, wonderful. For her, not as much. And then I see her grab her phone, and I'm like, okay, we'll probably just watch this by ourselves. Maybe me and the 5-year-old boy. All right, the final few questions of the Lil Piddles Angry Beaver Weekend Wrap-Up coming up in our final segment. Then BK and Ferrario take over. This is Balloon Party, driven by Mungan, St. Louis Acura, Alton Toyota, 101 ESPN. Hey, are you looking for a new car? Hey, are you looking for a pre-owned vehicle? Hey, Jack Brickhouse, Jackson. You know that? You know that name?
Indeed, Tim. I don't know who you're talking about.
Voice of the Cubs before Harry Carey. And he always say, hey, are you looking for service for your vehicle? Well, then I have the answer for you, and the answer is one place, and that's Mungan. St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota. And that's Jamie Burkhardt, Clayton Patterson. We had happy hour with our clients. Peter Mungan was there. Great to see him. Wonderful, wonderful people. And a company now I've been working with for a few years, and I recommend wholeheartedly. You can go online and go shopping right now, stlouisacura.com, altontoyota.com. Or if you would like, they have given a secret number for our listeners, and that number is 314 252 0029. You can call it, you can text it, and then you can interact with the people in charge at Mungan, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tanner's text, Jackson, what was it?
He just politely asked that we are out by 57. They got a guest on at 11:15.
That means we got 2 minutes.
I have a good question that
Quick hitter. We call these quick hitters.
Yeah, so Leo Messi has doubled the subscriptions for the MLS Apple TV package and has basically single-handedly put the MLS on the map for the world. I'm looking at the 4 major sports. Who are the Messis of each sport? I'm not asking the GOAT. I'm asking who you think is like the player that put them on the map to put them on the path where they are now. Like, who do you think is that for each 4 major American sports?
Past?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Babe Ruth, baseball.
You think?
Wow. Okay, I guess Tanner, sorry, we're not going to be out by 10:57. Clearly, Piddles wants to dig in on
I'm talking
something.
about, like, for, like, the grand scheme of, like, how big the sport is now. Like, obviously, Babe Ruth is huge in that, but people aren't watching there was no TV.
Okay, well, what's your answer?
Baseball's tough. Baseball, and there's the water bottle's been tossed.
I had to adjust because we have this Randy Carricker balloon statue, and I didn't want to pop any of the balloons.
Right. Baseball and football both are
So you
kinda
disagree
tough.
with my answer, and then I say, oh, well, then what's yours? Since we have to land the plane per Tanner's request, and then you go, well, I don't know.
Right. Well,
I mean, you wrote the question.
yeah, I didn't think of it, though. Obviously, I thought about basketball. I think we all knew that.
Yeah.
Well, I think people would go Jordan, but I think the answer is
so
Bird
you just
and
wanted to
Magic.
be able to talk about, okay,
No.
what about, what's your hockey answer? Because I know everybody's wanting to-
Gretzky, 80s Oilers. Dream team.
Okay.
Fought on the heels of the 80 on the 80 Olympics. You know, that was the getting was good for hockey, and Wayne Gretzky came and capitalized by being the great one. 99.
NFL.
You can make an argument for someone like Joe Namath, who, while not
It's a nice play. I like that play.
not a great quarterback, but like first like recognizable star, and then that kind of
The thing is, and this sucks because I could dig in on this too, but we got to go. The NFL really, as odd as it is, and it's tough, especially like for somebody who's 25.
Mm-hmm.
But I can kind of remember. I mean, the football Cardinals, I realize they were not successful, and I know younger people don't. I barely remember them. Maybe went to 2 or 3 games while they were here before they moved. But the NFL was not near the behemoth it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Back when the football Cardinals were here. And I would even say when the Rams got here, it wasn't.
Right.
It really is. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been hugely popular, but that was not, the Namath thing was a big deal, but the NFL wasn't what it is now.
Right.
The NBA, as you know from, talking about winning time, the NBA was a debacle.
tape delay.
It was a debacle.
Right.
So things will change. And I'm telling you, keep an eye on what's going on with MLS, not because of the Miami specific, but other players from around the world are going, oh, I can live in the United States and make ridiculous money.
And dominate.
Yeah. This is a big moment for MLS. This Messi thing, Taylor was all over it. Twellman was all over it. But I feel like it's even getting bigger with what's going on. Plus, because that team sucked. And he's having an immediate impact. I mean, it's something. I mean, they were here like 4 weeks ago getting shipped by City. And now they're on this heater and everybody's talking about them. It's a whole thing. All right, BK and Ferrari are up next for Action Jackson on Tim McKernan. This has been Balloon Party, driven by Munganess, St. Louis Acura, and Alton Toyota on 101 ESPN.